Built Better, the podcast for home improvement contractors by Modernize Home Services.
Welcome to Built Better, a podcast by Modernize Home Services, where we explore and highlight trends and topics around contractor marketing. I'm Don Pucci, your host and head of account management for Modernize Home Services. By my side, as always, is co-founder of Modernize, Chris Pallatroni. Today, I'm going to speak with Dean Hartley, the brand president for five-star kitchen and bath franchises. Five-star Bath Solutions has 102 locations around North America, part of the five-star franchising platform, which consists of 6 home service franchise concepts with 800 territories. So a lot to dig in today. And actually really excited because February marked our 1-year anniversary of working together, modernizing five-star. So a lot to celebrate, a lot to dig into. We're actually going to talk a little bit about how to prepare your business for maybe an impending economic slowdown, and what the new 2023 and 2024 market might look like, and how you should actually prep for it. So, and try to grow your business. Right. So thank you, Dean. We really appreciate you having you on Built Better here. How's it going today?
Having a wonderful day. A little rainy here in Michigan, but expected this time of year.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, it's Friday though as we're filming this. So if it's not Friday where you are listening to this, we'll get some Friday vibes to you.
Yeah, only a few days away, so they'll get there.
Yeah, Dean, I want to just kind of pick your brain a little bit on some of the things that you're seeing in the market so far. I guess maybe more specifically, I mean, you have 22 years experience in the bath space. So I'm guessing, seen the industry evolve over time. Can you share a little bit of kind of what you're seeing, what factors you think are driving your growth right now, and how you're kind of preparing your business for further growth?
Yeah, I have been in for a while. We've gone through, I started just around 2000, so just outside of the, .com bust. And I guess enough where we were on the uptick of the recovery afterwards. And in our particular business, I'm sure there's some bath people listening to this. We all remember the bathtub liners and how this industry started back in the day. And over time, we've just kind of evolved into a little bit more of a no-hassle bath remodeling as opposed to just a quick fix type of a product. Not to say that there's anything wrong with a liner, just that we've evolved in that industry. And lead generation and proper sales techniques is where it's all at in our business. Back then, Google pay-per-click wasn't out when we started. It was a time where I could run my own pay-per-click campaign, and I could never do that today. There was no Facebook. There was, Home Advisor was called Service something. Things were different back then, and but it hasn't changed the fact that leads and sales are just the lifeblood, the growth of these kinds of businesses. Because although we're producers, we have to actually put something in. At the end of the day, sales grows your business, not production. So we've tried to stay on the cutting edge of things, work with strategic partners to bring in those leads and change our processes along the way to fit with the way people buy these days, and just execute properly.
Do you feel like there's things that you do differently based on kind of where the economy is, in times of recession versus, let's say boom times? I know that it's 2023. There's a lot of technology that's changing the way people behave, right? Is there anything that you do to prepare for, let's say, a slowdown? That's a lot of kind of what we're hearing in the economy is, hey, people think we're going to slow down a little bit, or at least return to normalcy. That people aren't just by their computer all the time, sitting at home during COVID, right? So anything that you kind of think that you might do differently?
I look at any kind of economic downturn as an opportunity to grow more, spend more money, market more, gain market share. And no, I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say that we change much, because when things are good, we're just as aggressive. I mean, you always need to be aggressive in your sales and marketing efforts. So we don't let off the gas when it's good, and we're certainly not going to let off the gas when it's harder to get a lead. And I think most people who are probably listening to a podcast like this care about their business, and should be, less worried about the economy, more worried about their business, and always looking for the things that you can do to move the needle a little bit more. Increase that appointment set rate another point or two, increase that closing rate another point or two, because the customers will always be out there. If it's that bad that we have no customers, we're not listening to podcasts anymore. It's going to be pretty bad. But I think the people who are affected most in a downturn are, the smaller, companies who don't have a marketing system, who don't have an execution plan, who don't have a sales structure or a sales system. And it's an opportunity for those of us who do to grab a little bit more market share. So I don't think I'm going to change anything. If anything, I'd advertise more.
Do you buy into the fact that the economy is slowing down? I think if you look at whether it's housing numbers or maybe like a survey, I know Home Advisors put out some good ones. There's some housing committees that have done so. And, I think there's a lot of speculation that we're quasi in a recession or going to head to a recession. What I'm hearing you say is that, like, it's not going to change your strategy. So is it safe to assume you just don't even buy into that type of program of like, we're going to slow down, like the business is out there one way or another?
I think the business is always out there. It's just a little harder to find. If unemployment's at 10%, I could say there's 90% employment. And homeowners, especially in the categories that most of our customers are, and I'm talking about all home services people, if you really analyze your customer, they're generally 45, 50 plus homeowners, middle class. These are people slightly less affected by economic downturns than others. They're generally a little bit more established in their job. They've been there for a long time. They have gone through recessions in the past. Housing value doesn't mean as much to them because they're not moving tomorrow. So, and especially if you have more of a need-based service item. So your bathroom remodelers, we're doing a lot of shower conversions for people who are having trouble getting into their bathroom, into their wet area. If you're a roofer, if you have a hole in your roof, you need to get it fixed. If you're a plumber, if you're HVAC, these are, I don't want to call them recession proof, but your furnace goes out, it doesn't really matter what the stock market's doing today. You're going to get it fixed. So, no, I'm not going to say that I don't think that the economy is different now than it was 2 years ago. I think we are coming down to a normal. So comparing this in our business to what was going on 2 years ago is it was just too high then, but, companies we go through recessions every 7 to 10 years. Maybe we kick a can down the line a little bit every once in a while, but we have to be prepared to always be aggressive so that we can get through those times. So yes, I do believe that the economy is changing, but I think we can beat it. And I think we can maintain our businesses during that time by sticking to the tried and true methods and systems that we use during good times to sell business.
Yeah, Dean, you hit on something that we talk a lot about internally. It's one of our, if you're listening to this and you're trying to work for Modernize or you're trying to work in the home improvement industry, you never say recession proof, right? But you hit on so many of the themes that we harp on. It's like, you've got to improve your house if you're going to sell your house, right? So when the housing market is down and you're going to stay in your house is getting older, right? So now you want new countertops. Now you want a new bathroom, right? So we see that all the time. It reinforces the some of the themes that you touched on. Part of what you do is, you allow for entrepreneurs to, seize on some franchise opportunities and actually get into the business of remodeling. If I'm not mistaken, you oversaw, I think in 2017, I have listed here, you opened up 10 locations in Metro Detroit. And you did, over $14 million in just Metro Detroit alone. A lot of us, when we think of Detroit, we think of depressed economic circumstances, right? And so it kind of goes to some of the themes that we've been talking about, but were there unique challenges in that market that maybe we can learn from, of how people kind of overcame, some of those things?
No, I don't. In my, like I said, 20 years here, back when I started naive in this business, I was one of those people who would say to a manufacturer's rep or to a lead source, well, hey, maybe it works there, but this is Detroit, or maybe it works there, but you don't know my territory. And now that we have 100 locations around, all the other brands as part of our 5-star platform, you learn that you throw a dart at a map and the world's the United States is the United States. It's not too different from the north to the south to the east to the west when it comes to people need some work done. People have buying habits, and no different than they all use Amazon the same way. They purchase home services the same way. So, no, not at all. We have enough people here in our metro market. I mean, there's 3 million people here, and anything anyone would think about Detroit is, this is a big market. So, we're not doing anything different here than I would recommend anyone in Florida or Texas or Kansas City to do, which is people need things done in their home. It's never going to change. I mean, people always say that, oh, it's different now, technology. I mean, it really isn't. Once you buy a house, you become your parents. You now own a home, and our customer is our customer, for a reason. The types of people who buy things from people like us. And it doesn't matter if you're buying a roof, you're buying a flooring, you're hiring out gutters, whatever. Those the types of people who buy from companies like ours are very much the same. And, they're still going to need somebody to do it, want somebody to do it, want something better than you can buy at the home store, not want a random contractor or their brother-in-law to do it because they want a little bit of security. It's going to be a very, very, very long time, longer than we'll be here before that changes, in my opinion.
Walk me through, Dean. Like you said something really early on before we really got into this. Is it's like it's always sales and marketing, which, I mean, you're speaking my language. I mean, that's just the business that we're in. You're gonna run out of customers at one point, especially if you become a big outfit. And so generating leads is sort of the name of the game. But I want to dive a little bit more into like how you view the sales and marketing, because from my lens, and I'll set the stage a little bit here. Sure, it is getting more leads, right? And more leads can be better in a lot of ways. But how much of a focus do you guys put on like the customer journey? And I'll just sort of define that customer journey as like the moment that they place an inquiry, right? The email drops into your inbox if you're purchasing a lead, or they fill out that form on your website, or that first ring happens on your phone. Like, I have to imagine that there's a certain emphasis you guys are putting on, like, how do you nurture them to become a customer? Because just to get leads for the sake of getting leads, I think we both agree is not going to actually move the needle on your business. You got to know what to do with those leads. There has to be some sort of system in place. And so walk us through a little bit of like your ideology of that email comes in, that phone rings for the first time. What's that experience? What type of experience are you trying to give to the homeowner, if you will?
These days, the first thing is we're just trying to get a hold of the homeowner in the first place. I mean, it's becoming harder and harder than it was in the past. But we want to be quick. The whole speed to lead. We want to be there fast. We want to be there when the customer wants us to be there. I mean, People are not going to sit back, leave a message for a contractor, and then answer the phone 5 days later when you call back. You need to be there when they are interested in the product. And, we want that customer to know we care enough to give them a call, send them a text, send them an email, use all the communication at our disposal so that they have an opportunity to respond back to us in the way they want. If they want to answer the phone, if they want to answer through text, if they want to answer through email, they have their choice. We've done a nice thing of having a ability to online book so people can schedule their appointments, schedule an appointment right on the website. That's been very helpful for us. And when we do get that customer on the phone, we want to make it about their needs, not about our products. When you're first talking to somebody, your customer might think they know what they want, but they don't really know what they want. What they know is they have a problem. And when you are trying to get a salesperson out to someone's house, there's a certain level of fear that a customer has, is they don't want someone coming out and closing them. They don't want someone coming out and selling them. So it's important, in my opinion, to identify that customer's real pain point, that need, and then offer a solution that which the solution is, let us come take a look. Let us come out and inspect. Let us come out and give you a free inspection so you can see what you need and what you want. They're not always the same thing. And if we can help you out, we'll point you in the right direction. We'll give you a quote. We can't, we'll point you in the right direction. So trying to break down some of that fear so that the customer is excited about having us come out and take a look at what they have. Leave the selling to the salesperson and the sales system, and kind of treat it like the job on the front end is to turn those warm leads, which most of them are these days, when you're talking about affiliate sources and such, or your own website, and make them viable opportunities for your sales team to go out and present your differences, your company, and eventually your product.
Has that ideology always been the way you've thought about it, or is that something that's just developed over time? Because the way that you're talking makes me think that you're very much treating it as a customer centric experience. Like just even the way you say, like, they're going to answer the phone when they want to answer the phone, if they want to text you. And it's like, and I completely agree with that. And unfortunately, consumer behavior is not always rational. Like sometimes we put an inquiry on and then we just don't answer our phone. It's like, I don't want to do it anymore. But it sounds like the way you've sort of described that experience that you're trying to put the homeowners through is very customer centric. And I'm just curious, like, is that something that developed over time, or is that just something that was just more of like the way you thought about it from the beginning?
No, I would say that it has developed over time because it's changed as we've gotten lead sources leads coming in from different types of lead sources. So if you go back into my early days, if somebody was calling out of the yellow pages, they were looking for an appointment. It was pretty straightforward. If they were calling from a TV commercial, they were probably looking for an appointment. And we still had the needs-based stuff, but more people were calling us than we were calling them. We didn't do any cold calling or anything like that back in the day. So I would say that our language with people on the phone these days has changed a little bit just because of the nature of the types of leads that come in. Depending on the source, you can have various levels of intent. On the customer side, some people have a very high intent. Might be closer to a Google pay-per-click ad. They've been thinking about this for 6 months and they finally typed in the service and clicked the first 3 at the top. Some people are found through, a more nebulous type way of a Facebook ad or some social media or banner ad on a website or wherever wherever places get them from, who have curiosity and interest. And I think those are the ones we have to nurture even a little bit more on that, identifying that pain point, because they're very closable leads. I mean, the people must have needed something. funny enough, people do not invite us out to their house just to chat. They usually want something. But you have to have a little bit of empathy on the phone on that first call, and not try to sell too much, because that customer might not know what they want, but they have some idea because their Uncle Bob told them. We don't want to tell them that their Uncle Bob doesn't know what they're talking about. We don't want to be offensive. We want to understand that they have a deep down need that we have to fix. And if we have a solution for that, I consider that a qualified lead. You give us the time, you have a need that we can solve. That's all we need to be a qualified lead.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. It's interesting you said it the way you did, because I've been preaching it for years. It's just like, nobody in their right mind gives you their name and their phone number or their email because they're bored. Like, they may be at different points in the sales cycle. Some ready to hire now, some need more information and so forth. But like, I think we're just very guarded to relinquish that phone number and that email. And so if you can get that from somebody, or they get to a place where they're giving it, it is your job as a professional to sort of connect those dots. I'm in the process right now. Small side story here. Like, I need to get a landscaper out here, as much as I love landscaping, to fix my irrigation timer. My valves won't work, and it's starting to get warmer, and I need it fixed. I just don't want to deal with it. And as much as I know about hiring contractors, it is so hard to just get someone to pick up the phone. I'll spend the money today. If somebody just magically appeared at my doorstep, like, they would just get my money and like problem solve. I'm ready for it. But I put a request in on Monday. I won't even mention the name of the company, but like, went to his website. It's like the holy grail of leads. Goes in, I call him. We are on Friday afternoon over here in California, and just crickets. And I'm not going to hire this person at this point, but it's tough. It's not easy to find somebody for any particular trade. And so I think, as a contractor, as good as you are, as much brand equity as you have to recognize that there are like 1 million contractors in America. And unfortunately, the vast majority do not have the most stellar reputation. And I think you can actually leverage that to be a very positive thing for your brand if you are a professional company, by just doing a lot of the little things that we would expect, right? Just the phone gets answered. It's professional. Somebody shows up on time. Things that just feel very commonplace, but unfortunately are not very common in this industry. So anyways, now that was a little bit of tangent. I got one more question for you, Dean, here. I want your perspective, and then Dom, I'll kick it back to you. I'm curious of, like, when you think of that lead nurturing process, I'd love to get your perspective on how you view it in, let's say, a tougher economic time versus in a time where things are booming. Because the way that I've always viewed it is, I agree with you. I think, the business is out there. It's our job to find people. A lot of these trades are, even if you don't have the money, if it's hot, you're going to get an AC unit. If it's raining, you're going to get a roof. Like, you're going to find a way to connect the dots. Like, there's just no way around that. However, what I do see a lot of is when things are really booming, when the industry is just like, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. Like, you can't miss. I see a lot of sloppiness. I see a lot of inconsistency with answering that phone call and running everybody through a very systematic process. And there's a lot of leakage along the way. And look, things are so good. Like, a lot of people are just like, we can't get to the appointment or something of that nature. And I do think that the tougher times, as much as there's still plenty to be had out there, do force companies to button up those processes and maybe seal some of those leaks a little bit, work on some of the technique to enhance that customer journey. And I'd love to just get your perspective. Like, do you feel the same way? Do you think slower times are an opportunity to button up process, or for you guys, is it just buttoned up all the time?
Well, it's never buttoned up as much as it should be, right? You could always get better. The minute you sit back and say, well, this is all set, we don't have to do anything anymore, someone's going to get above you. During good times, I think you're right. People do get sloppy because they grow faster than they expected. And now they don't have enough salespeople, or they don't have enough producers, or they get backed out so far that, you can even get a little complacent and say, well, I don't even need that job, or that lead isn't that valuable. And then when things do tighten up a little bit, now suddenly you really want that lead and you really want that job. And of course, it is a great time to, and ideally, you're thinking about this all the time, though, instead of after the fact, so you don't miss out and have bad months of something we're doing from the lead nurturing side is realizing that with a lot of the with a lot of leads that have a lower intent level when you get the name. I mean, it doesn't mean they aren't interested, but they might not be interested right now, is creating campaigns to be able to reach out to them for longer periods of time, just to keep your name in front of them. Keep reminding them that they had this need at some point or they wouldn't have clicked the button, and over time, as you get a few of those residuals on leads you've already paid for, your overall marketing costs might start going down a little bit, because of it. I think people will also see it in rehashing and follow up on customers right now. When things are good and you're hitting the closing rates that you want, you tend to think that whatever job you didn't sell wasn't sellable. Well, some of them probably were. So putting into practice good follow-up programs, around with economic times like we may have. I mean, those are things that you should have done when they were good times too, but you start thinking about them a little bit more if things are going to tighten up. So I would agree with you 100% that when things are easy, people do get sloppy. And something that I think home improvement companies, the bigger ones probably do it and smaller ones should be doing it, is on a quarterly basis, at least, having a review of your own systems, your own pipeline, your own accountability chart of who's responsible to what. Are there any gaps in our pipeline that are leading to problems at the end of a job that we could have prevented? Every time I meet with my team, if anyone's bringing up a problem with a customer, before I fix the actual problem, I always ask, where did this problem start? Because it probably started 6 weeks ago, and it was something that we could have solved way back then. And was it our system? Was it our people? Or was it something that tech could have solved? It are the three things that I normally go to. There's no excuses in our business for having issues that could have been solved weeks ago. And remodelers, especially the people who have long backlogs. I mean, it's one thing if you're selling a job today and putting it in tomorrow, there's some room for error there. But when you have 4 or 5 weeks of backlog, which a lot of us have, or longer, there is time to fix these problems, and tightening up not just leads and sales, but tightening up your production is good as well, because that chaos can take an owner or, a GM's energy over to this side of the fence. And then you start lacking on your sales side.
As you're chatting through some of these process things, I couldn't help but think about, you're brand president for franchises, right? So so I'm guessing that you manage different franchises across, different locations, right? And if you're a franchise owner, similar to let's say you go to McDonald's, if I'm going to McDonald's in Austin, my Big Mac better be the same as when I go on my road trip and I go to Orlando and I get that same Big Mac. Mm-hmm. Not trying to plug the Big Mac here, by the way, more of a Five Guys, but you get where I'm coming, right? How do you have the quality control across different locations, and how do you make sure that the homeowner experience is good, no matter if they're getting their bath remodeled in Austin or Orlando?
Well, lucky for us, people generally don't get their bathroom remodeled in Florida and then go get their bathroom remodeled in Texas too often. So it doesn't have to be exactly to the same, but I do get your point that the experience should be the same. As a franchise in the remodeling space, what we do is teach best practices all along that pipeline. So from the sources you should be using for lead acquisition, how you execute to turn them into appointments, things that we can take from a national perspective for consistency. So we were one of the first franchises to have a national call center back in the day. that took all those inbound calls and booked them directly on our locations calendars. For the same point that you just pointed out, Chris, is just people need to answer the phone. How many leads do people miss because they didn't pick up their phone? And in the franchising world, we're not expecting every single one of our franchises to grow to a $50 million company that has its own call center. So whenever we can provide tools that our franchisees can use, so that as mid-size remodelers, they got the tools that larger companies would have, that helps that consistency. So we're teaching system and pipeline using similar. Of course, we have national vendors and vendor partnerships for product. But of course, in remodeling, you have to accept the fact that bathrooms are slightly different in New York City than they're going to be in Phoenix, Arizona. So we've learned to give our franchisees leeway in for local situations, so that you're not trying to force a round peg in a square hole just because it's part of the system. So you got to have a little flexibility in our kind of space to deal with the local differences across the country with different materials and slabs and basements and high rises and all that kind of stuff. But from the customer, from the points of contact that the customer should have, for the timelines, for the software, those things should be consistent, and people should have the general same feeling when the job's done, that I'm a satisfied customer.
How do you kind of inspect that across different franchises across the country? What's the process to make sure that folks are doing and putting those basic standards in place? Beyond, hey, we've got different code compliance issues around the country, but just knowing that the outreach is consistent, that they're actually using the tools that you're teaching towards. Is there a way that you have found to make that easier?
Never perfect, but easier. It first of all starts with having good KPIs and good data to work off of. So in our system, at least, we all use the same CRM software. We all use the same sales software, and any metrics that we can get out of that, I'm able to see in dashboard form, showing locations, how leaderboards and how people are doing on anything we can measure. It is a little bit harder. You're right, to measure the. I can't look at every bathroom myself, So we will lean towards review processes. So, there's a lot of software out there, software companies out there that specialize now in getting those review links out to completed jobs automatically through text, through email. So we employ those as well to use reviews to help kind of judge how our people are doing. And with our national call center, since we have the ability to make outbound calls too, we periodically do kind of follow-up calls to customers, do surveys, ask them how we're doing, NPS scores, that kind of stuff to get a feeling. But constantly training. We do a lot of webinars and a lot of weekly meetings with our teams and all our owners across the country, just to make sure that everybody's in communication on best practices. Obviously, we're all on the same team here, and if something's working for somebody, we want to know about it so that we can share the wealth to all the other franchises.
I'm curious of your take on this. One of the things that we see a lot of is we see a lot of consolidation in this space. And, there's obviously franchises are acquiring more territory. Sometimes they're buying companies. We see a lot of big players acquiring other brands out there. And one of the things that I'm constantly interested in is the difference in performance that one location can have versus another. Whether we're talking about the same brand, or maybe we're talking about competitors in the exact same market working the same lead, like there's just such a difference in experience. And we see that even with really large companies that we work with that maybe acquire a brand on the East Coast and they've got, 5 or 6 different markets. And then we're looking at their campaigns and, one guy's got a 10% cost of marketing and the other guy's got a 25 and he's like screaming, pulling his hair out. And we're the worst thing next to, whatever. And then the other guy's like, no, these guys are crushing it. And it's like, and I can't help but think it's like, yes, the quality of the product coming into your office is important. How you get your leads is important, but the process that you put those through to refine them into customers, I feel like plays a disproportional weight as to like the success of a program. And so I guess my question for you is like, as you start to think about how to, I'll just say, standardize the consumer experience, do you feel like it is better to give autonomy to a local brand, whether it's within a franchise or a PE company, just gobbling up companies left and right? Do you think it's better to keep autonomy at a local level and allow them to work things the best they can, and we teach them best practices and all that type of stuff? Or do you feel like you get a bigger lift if you consolidate that and roll it up into like a call center where you might have more control at like more of a national level? Like, do you have a personal preference as to which one provides a better lift for a business?
I think that I think I want to put that right. There's certain places where the consolidation is going to be helpful. When you can create a system, add a lot of tech to it, and really nail down what levers are pulling when, and making sure people are doing their job through, instant dashboard KPIs and things. I think you can be more efficient, consolidated on certain parts of the process. So on a call center, I think you can be more efficient with a national call center run properly. I think you can be more efficient with national software where the same types of text messages, let's say, are going out to the customers. But you can't consolidate sales. That has to be done on a local level. I know there's a lot of people out there that have the pipe dream that we can sell over Zoom, but it's not happening anytime soon. Maybe one of these days, but this is we're in an industry where, at least for the, I'm not saying every service couldn't be that way, but for your siding, for your roofs, for your windows, these are going to be, I got to put it in my hand and know you before I let you work in my home. So I think you really have to pick and choose which ones are better, and then run the numbers on it and make sure that they're working. I mean, when I teach franchisees, on day one, it doesn't matter if you're talking about pricing, if you're talking about, is it better to have one call center or the other, is you guess, and then you measure, and then you guess again. And if you're Apple figuring out the price of the next iPhone, or us figuring out the price of a soap dish, it's the same thing. They just might have more data than me, but it's a guess. You measure, you guess again. And I think home improvement owners in general are a little too quick to react to the problem or the exception sometimes, instead of really looking at the numbers and seeing, do I even have a problem here? They'll change their whole business because one job went south, and it's the first and last time the thing was ever going to happen. So measuring and collecting the correct KPIs is the best answer to that question, because you cannot fix it if you cannot measure it. So certain things, I do think that it's better to consolidate. And I think that, to your kind of anecdotal point earlier of one location taking a set of leads and doing really well and one not, probably a people thing. And we're in a people business. So we, as owners of locations or general managers of home improvement companies, we always have to be looking for the best people on our teams to run the systems that we put out there. And people get complacent with their people sometimes too. He's been here a long time, so it's okay to, let him not be compliant. And Compliance to a system is exactly why home improvement companies have been able to grow the way they have. Is everybody generally doing the same thing? So it's important I would rather have a high level of compliance and an average closing rate than a great closing rate and no compliance. At our locations.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point. I mean, the way I took your response there is, although there's a little bit of trial and error here, systematizing or maybe even having like a national call center up into a certain point in the sales process can be very advantageous. Maybe up into the point that an appointment gets set and, then you put a local person into the home, at which point, maybe taking over, there's some advantage on a local level of them taking over. The reason I brought that question up is I just see so much of this. And, when we talk to the really large companies out there, and there's not too many of them, I think there's somewhat of a race to try to be like the Amazon of home improvement. How do we do it? And I see an opportunity for it. I mean, it's a fragmented space with 1 million contractors and a $400 billion plus industry. Like, somebody's going to figure out how to connect the dots. And right now there is no brand out there that is, past $2 billion. I mean, maybe Home Depot touches on that a little bit with their install division, but you can see that the market share is, it's highly fragmented. And if somebody can systematize that approach, and to Dom's point earlier, sort of create like the Five Guys burgers of this, or the Starbucks coffee or whatever, where you have a similar type experience, at least up into a point in the sales cycle, I think there's huge opportunities, because I think consumers want that. We don't want to, my joke of with a landscaper earlier, I don't want to struggle to find somebody to come to my house and do the work, right? Like, I want to know someone's going to come out here. And I think that's really hard for a lot of people to find those people that will just answer the phone. All right. And like, forget about the quality of the work, which obviously plays an impact. But I mean, some of us are so desperate. We're like, I'll just take like somebody that will show up to the house.
Yeah, I see the same thing, and I'm really interested to see what happens when all this plays out, because, at the same time that you have the industry consolidating to some point, eventually the people consolidating all end up on top of each other. And then you got to wonder what happens in that market, because building a brand in home improvement, it takes a long time. I mean, you're talking about years and years. From at least my experience, I remember the brands locally because the jingles were on TV when I was a kid. And I don't know if you have kids, but my kids don't watch TV. I think it's harder to build the brand these days. It's more of being there when the people need your service. And I wonder sometimes, and I'm not, making a in favor argument or not, but I really wonder if the brand, at least the brand of the things we buy for our home, is as important as it used to be, or as valuable as it used to be. I think of what I buy on Amazon. I buy something on Amazon, but I couldn't tell you the name of the brand of the thing I bought. Whereas that would have been the thing in the past that I would have been looking at. And, the brand of the store now seems to mean a little bit more. So with home improvement, at least, the value build in home improvement becomes the story that we have to tell in the home, because there is no, if there is a preconceived idea of what this item should cost, it's probably wrong. A bathroom is supposed to be $5,000, and that started in 2019, and it's still supposed to be $5,000. And unfortunately, it's not $5,000. So it makes it very difficult to try to sell that item over the phone or sell that item over a website, because you need that in-person meeting to be able to build the value, identify the need, uncover the real situation. So I don't see that going away. But being more efficient on that, on things, and that's exactly where I meant, was up to the appointment point. That is where I think home improvement companies can be very efficient if that's outsourced or in one location and run through a great system. The sales has to be a great system too, but it's always going to be limited by how far a guy can travel in a day, which means you're going to end up being local. So then it becomes great people running those locations, whether or not they're owners in a franchise or general managers in a large company.
So Dean, we talked a lot about process, kind of bringing the eyeballs in and the customer experience leading up to the in-home appointment. And I think we all can agree here. I think that's really where the rubber meets the road. I mean, me personally, I would never just, buy a bathroom model off of Amazon and sight unseen and just have somebody come to my house. But then in lies the problem that I've been hearing across the industry. It's how do I get good people to sell, and then how do I get good people to install and make sure that pipeline continues to be robust. And then, of course, when you're running franchises, you want it to be uniform fairly across wherever they are. So, without having to go into any secret sauce that you might have, but, talk about a little bit how challenging it is to get the actual labor from the furthest part of the funnel, furthest down funnel. And then, how do you overcome that?
Great people is always the challenge. Doesn't matter if you run a Subway or a home improvement company. I mean, you have to find good people. The benefit we have in our industries is we generally are able, they're pretty good jobs. I mean, a salesperson at a exterior remodeler or bath company can make a lot of money. So you tend not to want to leave that position too often. Same with the installation crews. But yeah, you always have to find new people, more people. And the way we've always recommended is we never stop looking for new people. Our ads never come down. We're always looking, and you're always interviewing. And then you're, just bringing on people as you find the right fits. We're not going to wait for 3 people to quit and then go, crap, we have to hire somebody. We're constantly bringing in more people because you're either replacing your not so great people or you're growing, one of the two. So I would never back down on interviewing and hiring, always recruiting. I've never taken it to the level of starting to try to grab every waiter and waitress when I'm out to dinner, but at least have ZipRecruiter ads out and constantly having good resumes come in. And then take the one advantage we have in that economic turndown is a lot more people need jobs. So when I was saying that I think that the economy, any kind of economic turndown is going to be a little harsher on the people without the systems in place and who aren't running large companies, well, that puts a decent amount of laborers now out saying, I don't have a job now. So in good times, everybody with a paintbrush is a painter. Everyone with a saw is a carpenter, and they can get work. But, the good ones who are working for somebody, if the economy goes down and they're not able to find easy referral work, or I'll take anyone who will answer the phone work, and they don't have a system, then they're on the market, and we're able to upgrade our installers or upgrade our sales staff. So, those are one of the advantages of in our business when things get a little south.
Well, Dean, I really appreciate all the insight. We're running out of time here. I told you at the beginning I reserve the right to do a curveball. So with our last question of the interview, let's maybe we can keep the personal life aside because that could be a box that we don't want to open up. But as it relates
I'm
to
in the remodeling business, there's no personal life.
Touche. But as it relates to the remodeling business, as it relates to your role, like what keeps you up at night? What are the things that you're constantly thinking about before you go get some sleep?
When especially in remodeling, you have in home service, you have a very long pipeline of these steps that have to happen for a customer to get from an inbound lead to a completed and satisfied customer. And each one is important. All right. So you have all these steps that for most of us and, the kind of people who would probably be listening to this, these are 3-week, 4-week, 5-week, 6-week processes. And what keeps me up at night is it's very hard to visualize and create a perfect system, and you want it to be perfect. And that no matter what, you're going to have little holes here and there, and you want to fill them with the right piece of software or, changing the pipeline a little bit, or this person should be doing this or that. And especially in the software world, by the time you figure it out, it's already changed, because it's changing all the time. So I probably the fact that there's just so much we can do to be better. And there unfortunately is only 20 working hours in a day. So, you can't get it all done, and by the time you get it done, you got to do it again. Part of being in that people business is people are people. They forget, they start moving on in their own direction. So, this is never a business that you train somebody once and you say, okay, here you go, have a nice life and expect a 35% closing rate forever, because they go like this. Installers go like this. Everybody does in our business. So keeping all that together and putting in the mechanisms so that it can run like a ISO 9000 factory is probably what keeps me up most. But every day you check one more thing off the list and just keep trying to improve.
Well, fair enough, Dean. I really appreciate it. I've really enjoyed the conversation with you today. Hopefully we could have you back here pretty soon. There's so much to talk about. Appreciate you imparting the wisdom here for us youngsters listening to the call here today. But I want to also thank the audience. Thank you, Chris. Thanks for listening to Build Better. Before we go, show some love to your favorite podcast by leaving us a review on Apple or Spotify. You can also subscribe to us at Modernize Home on YouTube and shoot us over an email if you have questions, modmail@modernize.com. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time.